there's reproductive justice, there's food sovereignty, water rights. I mean, it's just, it's really, I wanted to create a body of work which honored the ancestors that came before me and came before us all. But I also wanted to create a book that was both, showed the excellence of being, you know, Afro-Indigenous, African-American Indigenous, but also the joy. So there are some ethereal poems in there that are very like abstract and, you know, academic, and then there are straight up callbacks in there, and, you know, and repetitive, and there's even songs in there. Like, I've written folk songs and literally wrote the lyrics in there. So I wanted it to be enjoyable for the people reading it, for the people who, to me, like, I wanted it to be digestible to the people who, these are our words, these are our stories, you know, so let's have fun with it, and let's heal from it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna start reading. 'Cause that's what y'all came here for. And all right, hold on. I need to. That's like perfect timing. Okay, cool.
Take the book then.
I'll have you take this one. Yeah, thank you, love. I'm gonna write a timer because I get lost in the zone. Also, before we get started, I'm just gonna have us do, if you feel comfortable, you can either close your eyes or look down at the floor or with your hands. We're gonna breathe for a second. We're just gonna breathe and just notice your breath. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it steady? Are you hot? Notice your body. Just take in your senses for a moment. And while you do that, just think of one word that you want to hold on to right now. Could be hope, could be joy, could be home. And as you're thinking of that word, just take some even breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just going to clear our nervous system and bring it back to center. Allow yourself to just be present in this moment. Notice your feet on the floor, your hands on your lap. What do you hear? What do you smell? And as you slowly finish up those deep, intentional breaths, and you slowly come back into the space, just think of something you're thankful for, you're grateful for. Slowly come back. Be love. What is good? Whatever you're thinking of, whatever you're envisioning, whatever you're thankful for, you, yourself, be love. You are good. You are good enough. Take one last deep breath in. Let it out audibly if you'd like to. Slowly, very carefully open your eyes. Bring yourself back to the present. Yeah. Alright. Let's do that. Because we're going to get deep, y'all. So we need to, like, be present. And I think it's always important to be present. Alright. So, set the timer down so it doesn't, like, completely cut me off. Alright, so this first story I'm going to share with y'all is the only short story in the book. I know, I say a book of short stories and poems. It's one short story, but that's okay. It's called Hazel, Buck, and Rabbit, and it's in honor of my grandpa, my granddad, and all my grandpas and grandmas, Afro-𝒐-𝒊𝒆𝒏𝒄𝒆. So this is a fictional story based on their lives and things that were happening in the 50s and the 60s in North Carolina, in the Durham, Raleigh area. And let me know, is my audio okay? Am I loud enough? Okay, I'm not trying to shout at y'all, but I want to make sure you can hear me. It's called Hazel, Buck, and Rabbit. Short, crunchy footfalls resounded amongst long forgotten leaves on the previous autumn's memory. Their stories became muffled by the fresh overgrowth of the 1950 summer. 3 footfalls to be exact. 1 belonging to Hazel, 1 belonging to Buck, and 1 belonging to Rabbit. All 3 children were as different as the strong pines, as the red mud, and as the honeybees. Rabbit was her nickname given to her by her father. She was born a triplet but was the sole survivor. The other 2 babies passed shortly after being brought into this world. Their tiny graves were adorned with flowers each spring, as all the cousins were. Her daddy said she was so small when she was born that she fit in his hand like a little rabbit, so they nicknamed her Rabbit. Hazel was a strong and independent girl. She was not afraid of defending her siblings or telling that she saw it, even to an adult. She was the oldest girl of her 11 siblings, and she defended them all like a second mother. Buck, well, he was as stubborn and wild as his name indicated. The 3 brown Afro-Indigenous children leapt through the chlorophyll-filtered sunshine, with Hazel in the lead, followed by Buck, and then by Rabbit. With their age gap, Hazel being 13, Buck being 11, and Rabbit being 6 years old, you wouldn't have guessed that these 3 would be companions on a midsummer's day. But their sisters, nicknamed Bones and Rooster, were helping their mother cook and wash the babies. James and June, short for Junior, were grown and outliving their own lives, while their teen brothers, Popcorn and Pancake, were helping their father in the fields. So, determined Hazel, headstrong Buck, and inquisitive Rabbit headed off into the forest to get water from the well. Apart from the shore, there was another reason Hazel offered to pull water. She had a lot on her mind, see, and wanted the time alone to sort it all out. Yet she was severely disappointed when her father commanded her to take her little brother with her to help. Buck always got on her nerves, especially because he was always fighting with her favorite big brother, Pancake. Rabbit was simply along for the ride, or so everyone thought. She was tired of being lumped in with the babies. Rabbit often had to help her mother with baby Gwen or get her toddler brother Odie out of a mess. That day, Rabbit decided to cut a little slice of her own adventure pie. When she overheard all the talk about going to the well, she popped up from behind the shed to say, "I'm down." Hazel had a theory about their family, and Buck, of course, had a counter theory. What the family needs to do is harvest all the tobacco we can. That way, we'll sell enough at market to make it through the winter, Hazel said aloud to herself. She didn't invite Buck into her thoughts, but he interjected anyway. What the family need most is to store up wood for the winter, Buck yelled, cutting at the brush with his sling blade. Also, fewer chores for us kids. Well, of course you would say that, scoffed Hazel as she peered through the foliage to look for the well. It would always be in the same place, but the Carolina ivy caused the landscape to take on a new life each year. All y'all kids want is to get out of chores and gripe about caring for the babies, while us grown folk gotta worry about our food crop and getting jobs if the tobacco harvest isn't big enough. Huh, Buck retorted. You ain't grown. You barely older than me. Hazel rolled her eyes, ignoring him. Pancake said last time he tried to go into town to get a job, they said they ain't hiring colored folks, so we gotta work extra hard. We ain't gonna go hungry, Buck replied shortly. Daddy sure is nothing gonna let us go hungry. Rabbit said, in agreement. Besides, Buck continued lackadaisically, if we don't grow enough tobacco this year, we'll survive off the land. Hazel turned red and got a stern look on her face. What did her little brother know about anything? He was always horsing around. It was her job to keep them all together, to keep them safe. Rabbit hid behind her brother while Hazel stormed past them down the path to the well. After they fetched the water, Buck took a break to lean on a tree. Hazel was still pacing back and forth, her brow furrowed in deep thought. She was so stuck in her own head that she tripped over a tree branch and fell face first in the mud. Buck cracked up laughing. Those shoes must be comfy because they don't work and they ugly. Oh, ain't you a comic comedian? Hazel snapped before narrowing her eyes on something near her brother's feet. What are those? She said as she scrunched her face up and squinted her eyes to focus. What's what? He replied, spinning around. They seedlings, Rabbit said, squatting down, pointing to the small tobacco plants that had sprouted up. Hey, we don't harvest enough on our fields. We can harvest some of these too, Buck said excitedly. Huh, they'll be dead come October, said Hazel. No, they won't, Buck retorted defensively. And you're gonna save our family farm, ain't ya? He asked the sprouts tenderly. How they gonna grow if no one's tending to them? Hazel said indignantly. They doing just fine now. Them seeds are strong, blew in all the way from the fields and planted themselves. How do you like that? He shouted angrily. Then Hazel shoved her brother, causing him to fall into the patch of seedlings. She was only a couple years older than him, but she was tall and strong as a bull. He hollered loud enough for the birds in Tampa to hear him. "When the hell you do that for?" he asked, shoving her into a nearby tree and grasping at his ripped pants. "Now I'm gonna get whooped for tearing up my clothes. And you got mud all over mine. When Daddy finds out, he gonna whip you hot and he gonna whip mine too," she said, wiping tears away. She looked up and saw tears in her brother's eyes too. He looked up quickly so they would disappear. Unlike the fear of their father that stayed with him, stayed with them both, stayed with them all. By this time, even Rabbit was sniffling with tears and snot running down her face as her lip quivered. She tried to wipe it away on her dress sleeve and left a long trail of slimy residue. "Now Mom's gonna whoop me for crying all over my dress," she said, glancing at the snot stain. "Yeah, we all gonna get whooped," Buck said, examining their badly stained clothes. Rabbit dried her eyes on her sleeve and did something neither of them expected. She was quiet but observant and had grown tired of their belly aching, so she spoke up. "We going to the lake," she demanded. Only 5 simple words, yet Rabbit had never told anyone what to do. Hazel and Buck were shocked. They stood with mouths wide open in disbelief, but they were still too proud to speak to each other, so they gave each other a mean look and followed their little sister to the lake. Buck stood on the shoreline and threw stones as Rabbit played in the sand. Hazel searched for seashells and stones and picked up a shell that was roughly the shape of a dogwood flower. She smiled, remembering her grandmama telling her stories about waiting for the dogwoods to bloom before planting corn. She remembered the cold spring mornings spent with her planting the seeds, followed by warmer afternoons learning to make quilts, and late summer harvests sucking on ears of sweet white corn, followed by autumn days grinding up yellow and red corn to store for cornbread and grits in the winter months. She closed her eyes and hugged the memories close to her like a dear friend, only to open her eyes and see her annoying little brother. She never understood why they grew tobacco. Granddaddy didn't speak much, but he would talk from time to time about it being a sacred plant passed down from their Indian ancestors. Daddy spoke even less and just said, "'Cause I said so." He would go to the Johnsons and trade some of the family corn for their corn whiskey. When he left the house, she always feared he'd come back drunk and mean as a snake. She knew the corn made him drunk, but the smell of the tobacco in his old wooden pipe is what haunted her. She gagged just thinking about it. But since tobacco sold for a lot at market and was good for the family, Hazel had to put her own feelings aside. Buck walked up to her and spoke. "You know, maybe we won't grow enough tobacco." She picked up a rock, flat and smooth. Without looking at him, she skipped the rock along the lake surface. "Yeah, and maybe we will." They sat in silence for a while. "Well, we better head on back," Hazel said, finally breaking the silence. "It's almost sundown, and if we ain't back before nightfall, we gonna get 2 whoopings." They both laughed. "Come on, Rabbit," Buck called out to his little sister. "Aw, man," Rabbit whined. "Hey now, no hollering, else I'll whoop you too. Come on," he said as he approached her.